Hello and welcome to Business Sense. I'm Ralph Rivas. Joining us here in the Rappler studio is CIMB Bank Philippines CEO Vijay Manoharan. Vijay, of course, and his team is responsible for the consumer loans that you see on the GCash app. That's usually where people first know or hear about CIMB Philippines. So if you have a loan or two on the GCash app, that is powered by CIMB Philippines. So welcome to Rappler, and congratulations on winning the best bank according to Forbes.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you for having me here.
So let's start off with that. Forbes named CIMB Bank Philippines as the best bank here in the Philippines, beating all other traditional banks. So is that really the future? Is digital the future? No physical, no physical branches.
Yeah, so first and foremost, thanks for bringing it up, and we are very humbled by this recognition by Forbes, giving us the number one spot in the country as the best bank. Just a bit of a backstory, Ralph. We came to this country in 2018, and when we first came here, digital banking was not something where people even talked about. It was so way nascent, and people didn't realize there was a huge opportunity to do something unique. When we came here, we realized that the Filipino consumers didn't enjoy the benefits and the privileges that other consumers in other countries were enjoying from their banks. So we said, let's do something different. Let's provide better access. Let's provide more value. Let's give the consumers more choices when it comes to banking. And we decided to go digital because we felt that's what the consumers were looking for. And after 5 years now, we have 7 million consumers. We have transactions which are growing from 2 million just 2 years ago to 20 million today. So we see that the consumers are adopting digital. They are looking to bank with a bank like CIMB, which provides greater value, greater access, convenience, and they can trust us because we're the 5th largest bank in the region. So they realize that we bring a lot of benefits to their banking needs. And plus also, I think it's important to note that when we do something in CIMB, we want to solve a pain point. We want to really bring and address a solution for our consumers. So I think all this in combination is the reason why we are recognized, because I think we're doing something meaningful for the consumer. We're helping our consumers advance their life to the right solution, the right offers, so that they get the right banking solution for their day-to-day needs. So this is really a humbling recognition. We owe it to our customers who have been our biggest supporters from day one. We are only getting started. We've got a lot more in the works to bring a lot more solution, a lot more benefits to the Filipino consumer. So we're very humbled by this experience. And to the second part of your question, we strongly feel that the future will be in digital banking. We already see, as I mentioned earlier, our transactions from just around 2 million 2 years ago per month. Now it's at 20 million per month. It's grown 10 times. If you look at the value, it was 4 billion 2 years ago. Now it's 40 billion per month in just a space of under 24 months. So clearly there's a shift towards embracing digital banking and digitization. But my last point, Ralph, is CIMB, we are not a digital bank only. To us, digital banking is just a subset of a broader experience. We are an embedded bank. And what embedded bank means is we bring the bank to the consumer where the consumer conducts their day-to-day life. So that's a unique thing about CIMB. We don't necessarily just look at digital banking as our end state. We look at how can we bring solution, how can we bring unique offerings, and how can we integrate where consumers do their day-to-day daily transactions or daily activities. So that's kind of how we are very unique. And we are also very happy that we, as a pioneer in this space, in this country are leading this movement, this change towards digitization. And we are also very happy to see now there are 6, 7 other banks that are also now embracing what we have started 4 years ago and are also adopting some of the same things that we're doing. And I think the end result will be the Filipino consumer will stand to win. They have more choices, they have more options, and they got more benefits to choose from with now 6, 7 players in the market really offering different solutions and better offerings for the consumers to choose.
Okay, so let's talk about growth. What are the main drivers, and will we see, I don't know, 100%, 200% growth that you've experienced in the next couple of years? Will that, and is that sustainable, that type of growth?
No, absolutely, Ralph, because you see, if you look at the bigger pie, right, if you take a couple of data points, if you take off transactions from a digitalization point of view as a percent of non-digital transactions in the banking space, digital transactions, it's still in the single digits as a percent of overall transactions. So we're very in the early stage of adoption. So there's a huge upside of growth.
So this is still early.
Very early. Even e-commerce transactions, although they have grown rapidly since COVID, but still it's a very small percentage of overall retail transactions. So as e-commerce transactions grow, digital transactions will also grow. And I think the upside is, we're just starting. It's a huge potential. We haven't even tapped some 15, 20% of all digital transactions. So the upside is great. So this momentum, I feel, is only beginning, and there's a long, long way ahead before we get to any scale. And that's a good thing for a bank like us. So we see the outlook to be very positive.
Okay, so you were able to, you mentioned numbers, doubling, tripling. I mean, growth has been quite something for CIMB, considering that you were just here just a couple of years before the pandemic hit, right?
Sure.
So how were you able to tap these consumers? I mean, what were their issues? What's their profile basically? Were they unbanked for one, or do they have banks, or still are just looking for other banks for them to borrow? Or I mean, tell us the profile and what made them avail of CIMB's services.
That's a good question, Ralph. So it's a very deep question because there's two parts to it. One is giving consumers access to saving money. Then second is giving consumers access to lending money or borrowing. So first point in terms of giving them access to saving money, the barrier to even open an account was very steep, was very high. The requirements to open an account, documentation, going to a physical branch, the fees, and also what they get in return. If you look back 4 or 5 years ago, a Filipino consumer, to put their money with a bank, they will get less than 1% in their interest. And we came to the market and we said, no way. We want to make it easy for consumers to open an account. We want to remove fees, make it free. We want to make it accessible. And guess what? We want to pay highest rates in the range of 2, 3, 4, 5% back then. And that was unheard of. So consumers are very smart. They themselves will figure out what is good. They can tell what is the best option for them. So when they look at the current offering back 3 years ago, where there was high fees, difficult to open an account, they don't get anything for their deposits, and they see an alternative like CIMB breaking the norms, no fees, easy to open the account, pay very high interest rates, and making it so accessible, naturally they will come to where there's value to them. So we made it very logical. We made it very sensible for them to make a very intuitive decision. That's on the saving side. Now on the borrowing side, it's a bit more complex because to give out money is easy. But in a market like the Philippines, where actual borrowing from traditional banks or from banks and regulated financial services industry, it was in the single digits. So there's still a huge lacking of credit bureau. It's not available as robustly as we would like it to be. A national ID is not consistent across the country, and also banks typically use very traditional underwriting means to underwrite a consumer. So, as you probably would know, it's difficult to get a loan. Banks put consumers through a lot of hoops to even get a small unsecured credit line. So we came in and we said we want to change that. Why? This is very important because we believe that to give consumers credit line is really part of nation building. Because if you want to move people up in their social economic status and you want to develop a broad-based society, you must start to avail credit. And we took a very pragmatic approach. We said we want to make borrowing to be simple, where people can access credit easily. We want to use alternative data. So we use a huge array of data to profile our customers, to know their credit worthiness. But we also want to make sure that we lend responsibly. So we don't want to go out there and start to overburden the consumers. So we have a very unique program where we start consumers on a very sort of measured way of borrowing. Then as they show a good behavior, as they borrow responsibly, good repayment, we start to graduate them as they show their profile, as they show their repayment history, and they show their quality in terms of their behavior. So Ralph, the last 1 year, from a customer base of 1 million lenders, now in under 12 months, we have 2.5 million Filipinos that are borrowing from us. And 70 or 75% of them, in one of our surveys we did, not recently, but a while back, showed that this is the first time they're borrowing from a bank. So we're very proud about that.
The first time, so 75% of your borrowers are first timers. So doesn't that I don't know? Doesn't that scare you? There's a risk to it, right? So what happens then if they don't pay up? I mean, doesn't that scare you?
Yeah, no, of course. But again, everything is measured. Life in itself is a risk, and you must take calculated risk. So I think we put a lot of science behind it, and of course we've come from a large group that have been doing lending for many years. So CIMB is a group, and here in the Philippines we got extensive experience in how to lend and lend responsibly. So you're right, but I believe my belief is the Filipino consumer, they're good. They want to do more good, and they want to advance their lives, and they realize having a good banking status, having a good credit history, will just advance their life. And remember, most of our borrowers are in their late 20s, early 30s, so they got a long lifespan ahead of them, and they want to grow and they want to build their family status and provide for their family. So they understand that to borrow responsibly, to maintain a good credit history and a good credit standing will only help them for the future. So I think the combination of our expertise, combination of really understanding which profile of consumers to borrow to, lending responsibly, looking at people borrowing and graduate them up, and plus we also believe fundamentally people are good and they want to borrow responsibly. I think all this so far has been very positive for us, and we've seen that, yes, as I mentioned, our portfolio has grown double, triple in the last 1-2 years, but our asset qualities, our provisioning, our non-performing assets, they have stayed at a very healthy levels. In fact, as we grow the balance sheet, our asset quality, our portfolio quality has improved while growing the balance sheet. So we're very positive about that.
So how are you, my main question and curiosity actually is, what were the key points or data points that you're looking at that the traditional banks here before you have been, ignoring? I mean, not really paying attention much because, here in the Philippines, a basic ID is already difficult as it is. getting a barangay clearance is already quite troublesome. So I mean, that alone is a huge barrier. So what are the other key points that you're looking at to assess that oops, this person is not so creditworthy and this one can pay up?
Yeah, it's a complicated question. It's also very science-based, and of course we use a lot of algorithms and machine learning to also help us in the process. But generally, Ralph, to give you a broad sort of a response to that question, we look at every single data point, every single footprint that you produce, an activity, what time you log in, what time you log out, when you do a transaction, what transaction, how much the transaction. So without going into too much details, essentially using any and every data point that we can use and which the customer has given us the right to use that data to assess the customer's credit worthiness and use it based on what we feel, how the data will differentiate. Someone that is a good borrower, has a potential to be a good borrower, and someone we think is still not ready to borrow from us yet. So it's really a lot of science that go into it, but really it's a data-driven decision that we spend a lot of time internally to really understand what the data is telling us and making some very difficult decisions. And it's a learning process too. You don't make all decisions right on day one. So you learn from your mistakes and then you iterate from there. So it's not very straightforward, but it's very measured, and you must be willing to take some calculated risks and knowing when to pivot and knowing when to call something when you think it's not going in your favor. So it's a very iterative process that we go through.
So definitely, artificial intelligence is a big issue. It's a big thing right now. The likes of ChatGPT and all the other generative AI. So what does AI mean in the fintech space and for CIMB?
Yeah, so I'll talk about CIMB. So I think it's a good question because for us, we onboard on a monthly basis hundreds of thousands of customers a month, right? And they onboard to us and sign up to CIMB in a matter of minutes, right? And we make it very easy, convenient to have a banking relationship. And that's why we've grown from 1 million to 7 million customers in these 4 years. But at the same time, we are a bank. We have to make sure that we evaluate the customers. We have to make sure that they comply with our requirements. And we have to make sure that they are properly vetted, quote unquote. So we use AI for that. We use a lot of AI capabilities to make sure that we know our customers well, we know who they are, we are able to authenticate them properly, we're able to understand their profile, what risk they bring with us, and really use AI to protect the bank very robustly. And without these AI features, we will need to have thousands of people to support onboarding hundreds of thousands of customers a month. So AI in a nutshell, Ralph, makes it really convenient, really makes it very targeted and efficient for us to run a huge scale business because the machine does the work for us. That's one part. Second part, AI would really help us to be very targeted in offering our consumers the solution they need. So I think using AI intelligently, we'll be able to offer the right product to the right customer at the right time. So AI will also help for us to know our customers better, what stage in their life cycle they are, what financial solutions they actually need at a given time, and then from them, offer them the product. So we think of AI as ability to operate a large-scale business at the lower costs and using AI to protect the franchise, but also using AI to return value to the customer by offering consumers a better product, a better solution, which will help them advance what they need for themselves and for their families.
Now, let's talk about the economy. I mean, interest rates are really high right now, and inflation is really eating up everybody's monthly income.
Sure.
So, what's the prospects for CIMB given this, uncertain environment? Any growth targets that you can share? You're still betting on, I don't know, maybe 1 million more new customers or more, or what's the outlook?
I'll tell you. Ralph, we're only getting started. 7 million customers, and we feel that we have changed the game in the country significantly. We're happy that there are other players that are following our footsteps and learning from what we have done. I think it benefits the consumer. But we're getting started. I think for us, we want to get to 15, 20 million customers. We feel that
How soon?
in a few years. In a few years, we see that as long as we continue to stay to our values, which is really providing solutions that the consumers are looking for, as long as we stay to our values of disrupting and addressing a need in the marketplace, and as long as we continue to address the pain points and bringing really meaningful solution. So we don't offer products, we don't offer solution just for the sake of what we want to offer. When we offer something, we are solving a pain point, and we're going to scale. So we got a few plans in our roadmap that we feel will take us to 15 million customers. We don't see why we can't get there, because really the market is huge, and there's a huge need for what we're going to bring to the market, what we have brought to the market, and what we'll continue to bring to the market. So we're very optimistic. We're just getting started.
So your deposits is, what, I think people are taking advantage of the higher interest rates now, but of course the lending environment is also challenging because of the high interest rates. So the current product is from between 1,000 pesos to
1 million.
1 million.
Yeah.
So you can borrow up to 1 million through the CIMB app.
True.
Given your credit score, provided your credit score would allow you so. So what's next? Other products, maybe I don't know, maybe other types of loans.
Sure.
If you can just give a hint.
So I just want to take the first part of your point, right? In terms of consumers today have options to get better savings rates, and that's true because, as I mentioned 4 years ago, when we offered our 3-4% interest rates, we were the only ones. Everybody else was offering less than 1%. But now, fast forwarding 4 years later, other banks are also doing what we started doing 4 years ago. So the consumer now, they have a right to choose. If they want to put it at CIMB or a competitor, they got options. I think that's a good thing for the consumer, and we believe in that. Now, in terms of your second part of the question, what next? So, as I mentioned, we're just getting started. And we're really focused to do a few things and do it really well. So we feel that we are going to pivot to a few new segments. We feel that we are studying these few new segments extensively now. And as I mentioned, when we do it, we're going to make sure that we get huge scale and disrupt, like how we've been able to do the last 3-4 years in this market. So there are a few things in the pipeline. We like the OFW segment. We think the OFW segment has a huge amount of potential. It's a 34-35 billion sector annually, and we feel that we can really tap into that and disrupt that and really help the OFW advance their lives more. We also feel that the micro SME segment, which is growing rapidly, and the digital SME segment, it's also new and untapped.
Currently, you don't have any products for the MSMEs.
We do not at the moment.
And you intend to launch that how soon?
We are looking at it. We're looking at it. We hope sooner rather than later. And we really feel that we can address really a pain point. And again, MSME is also part of nation building. As you grow your micro SMEs, I think it will help the overall economy also grow. So we are studying a few of these segments very closely. We are also a big fan and proponent on digital payments. So we got a few things in line in terms of really going big on digital payments. We are also supporting the BSP's agenda. As you would know, digital payments in this country has really leapfrogged the last 2 years from being around less than 20%. And this year alone, I think BSP has a goal of making digital payments around 50%. And I think they're going to achieve that. And we also want to drive that digitization of payments. And we have few plans to really scale that in a big way to move from cash to cashless.
So from the sound of it, you're really trying to disrupt lots of industries, and current existing players are really going to be, your competition is going to be tough, especially with your products that you're intending to launch. So who's the bigger competition, traditional banks or digital?
This is a good question, but I don't know kind of how we see it, Ralph, is we are just looking at the consumer. So for CIMB is we look at the consumer, at the segment of consumer, and we ask ourselves, what do they need, right? And then can we bring something valuable? To be honest with you, there were times where we looked at a segment and we look at the product that we think we want to bring, and we felt that it wouldn't really solve their needs or their pain points, and we walk away. And we've done that many times. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't really look at what others would think of us or what others would do. We stay focused around how do we solve it for the consumer? How do we make a difference, right? And how do we address the pain point and make an impact? And this case to point, we did digitalization of banking 4 years ago, and now there are 7 banks who are doing the same thing. And if we do a new disruption in a new segment, new space, others will follow. And my belief has always been this market is huge. Philippines has got 110 million young people, and it's a young population, and it's a growing economy. And there's enough space for few players, in fact, many players. So we welcome competition. I think competition is good, not only for the consumer, but I think competition also makes banks like us pull up our socks and get more sharper and compete better. So I think, we are not adverse to competition. We will take competition head on, and may the best win.
So again, from this interview, we learned that you're looking to grow your consumers to 15 to 20 million in the next couple of years. No specific timeline, but you're confident that you'll get there. You're gonna tap OFWs, new products for MSMEs and digital payments. So you have a lot of work coming for you, Vijay. So again, looking forward to hear from you again, and I hope for you to report better figures in the next couple of months. Again, thanks so much for your time. That was Vijay Manoharan, CIMB Bank Philippines CEO. That has been another episode of Business Sense. I'm Ralph Rivas. Thanks for watching.